Hi, guys, and welcome to this episode of the Martial Art Business Growth Network podcast. I'm joined by my good friend and coaching client as well, long term coaching client, Simon Bushby. How's it going, Simon?
Hi, Rick. Great to see you again. Yeah, thanks. Very well, thank you.
Good.
Good.
Right. Decided to do this episode to talk about um, Simon's journey for a very good reason. He's made, he had a good business before we started work together, I think, from every angle, from every perspective. Um, but in the past, is it 2 years we've been working together? 3 years,
About two
something like
years.
that?
Yeah.
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 Past 2 years we've been working together. There has been such a massive shift and such a massive upgrade that we had to kind of share. I really want to share his journey, his thoughts, and everything, and also give a little bit of insight into how we worked together and implemented some of the things to get things working, and the work that Simon did and the decisions he made in order to make sure his business has got from where it was to where it is now, which is an amazing academy. But before we start, let's do a quick intro. So Simon, give intro everybody like a 60-second snapshot of who you are, like your martial arts school that you run and everything, and how long you've been working with us.
Yeah. So my name's Simon. I've been working with Rick for just over 2 years now. We run a martial arts school on the south coast in Bournemouth. Uh, we I teach traditional karate, so it's traditional Goju-Ryu is the main core of our curriculum, and then we have other programs linked on top of that as well. But the main core is traditional karate, and coming on from Rick we were sort of a low number school. We were sort of 80s, around the 80s sort of number when we first started with Rick. And the goal for coming onto the growth network was just to kind of grow and get bigger and just kind of develop the school from where it was. As Rick said, we were very pleased and happy with the quality of the school. It was just the growth that was not where it wanted to be.
Cool. So, if you could summarize the results from your work, from our work together, like kind of in just one powerful sentence, like an overview, not like details, we'll go into that later, but like an overview, like what sentence would you use? What powerful sentence would you use?
It's got to be clarity and focus with accountability. That's it. Before working with Rick, it was and yourself, it was just floating along. It's kind of just sort of bobbing along, just hoping you go in the right direction. Since coming on board, it's been that clarity, it's been that focus, and then having the growth network accountability platform to actually bounce ideas off of and not let yourself get into your own head, but allow people to actually help you kind of develop yourself further.
Yeah, that's definitely right. That's good. All right. So, I want to get more into like your whole like journey. So take us back to before we were working together. What were your biggest frustrations and struggles in the school, do you think?
I think the biggest frustration in school was lack of growth. We were kind of a one in, one out kind of situation. We'd have a month where we get two or three enrollments, and then we'd have a month where we'd lose two or three. So we'd always be plateauing around the same sort of numbers. So that was a massive frustration that we just couldn't seem to get the growth increasing in the school. And then also staffing as well. At the time, I was kind of having to beg, borrow, and steal from students and friends to kind of cover holiday classes. And if I wanted a week away, it was kind of, well, how do I do it? It was kind of speaking to friends and saying, would you mind taking a few hours extra off work to come in and help cover my classes so I can have a week away? So those were the two biggest frustrations: the sort of lack of time for myself to get any downtime, and then the one in, one out mentality of how the school was growing at the time.
Yeah. The thing is, there's a lot of martial arts schools that are at that stage right now, and it's so common, isn't it? That you kind of just stuck. You don't know what to do. I remember being there myself, like begging. You almost feel like you're begging people to do you another favor
Yeah.
to cover this class and everything, and you're juggling everything, and it's not
I think
great.
one
How
of the
did it? Go on.
I was going to say, I think one of the biggest things for me, one of the biggest mindset shifts early on was employing somebody to be the admin of the school. It was one of those ones where I thought, I can't afford this. And I've had that mentality for a very long time that I can't afford to pay somebody to do an admin role. I need to do everything myself. However, that was the best investment I did up
Yeah.
until that point of bringing somebody else on board. And I really would honestly say, if you think you can't afford it, then you definitely need to afford it. You need to work a way in which you can afford it, because it is such a massive thing. If you are a one-man band like I was, you need to pay somebody and not have somebody free doing it.
No, it's definitely what's that saying? I think it might be, I can't remember who said it, but you've got to let go to grow.
Yep.
So true. We
Yep.
try and hold on to everything, don't we? Did you feel like that at the beginning, where you had to hold on to everything and everything was your responsibility?
I still feel that now. We've grown, we've got bigger, we've got more team members, but I'm still kind of I'm having to hold myself back from kind of checking in with everyone, going, "What are you doing today? What's going on? What's happening?" And just trust the process, trust the team.
No, but you're definitely getting better though. But
Trying
so how did it affect you personally and professionally at the time? Like, how did you feel when you woke up in the morning, etc., etc.?
It was frustration. It was a frustrating feeling to be in, that you feel, as we all do as martial arts instructors, we all go into our classes trying to teach the best lessons possible, leading by example, and just trying to do your very best. And you feel that, I'm knocking my pipe out all these lessons, giving the best content I possibly can, and yet we're just kind of plateauing. We're just, why do people not love me enough to come to our classes? It was that kind of mentality of, surely my quality of teaching should be enough to bring the people in. Word of mouth should be enough to get people coming in. So that was the real frustration, that the quality of the lessons that we were teaching were exceptional as far as I'm concerned, and it just wasn't growing. And I'm not the only person who's, having spoken to you, Rick, before in the past, and other members of the Growth Network, we're in the same sort of boat. We're all on the same page. We all are passionate about teaching martial arts, but teaching martial arts is a very, very small area of the business. That's what you get to do at the end of the day when everything else is done.
Yeah, it is true. And like you talking about that scenario made me think as well of, and we've spoke about this. It's like the warning signs that people ignore leading up to kind of either going well because you take action and do something, or everything just falling apart, where you start to actually hate teaching martial arts.
Yeah. And you start thinking, well, do I need to go and get a job in Sainsbury's? Do I need to go and start? Do I need to go and actually, get a job somewhere else and give up this career? And that just comes down from a lack of processes, frustration in how you're running the school. So many things that you're doing. A lot of people, I was in the stage of, I was doing it as I thought I needed to get it done, and it wasn't right. We don't. If you're learning a kata, for instance, you learn from a senior person. You learn from someone who's learned it before you. And we go into business and we kind of, we just make our own way through it. Whereas learn from somebody who's been there before. That's what mentoring is all about, isn't it?
So let's talk about that. So what specifically made you decide to kind of reach out and work with me?
I think I'd met you before. I can't remember we'd met before previously, but we'd had conversations before at previous events where we spoke. And outside of the martial art aspect, what stood out to me more for myself talking to you is your passion, not for martial arts, whilst you've obviously got that, but it was the passion for the personal development and the creating your why and the purpose, and that to me is something that's something I truly believe in as well as an individual. I think you need to have that passion. You've got to have that personal development for yourself. If you don't look after yourself first, you're not going to help your students and help your team. And that came across from yourself when we first met. It was the passion you had for that self-development and that helping people improve themselves personally, and that then leads on to everything else. You've got to get that first, and that was the first thing really. And then coming on, I think we had one of the network chats where I joined in a group call and just listened to what was being spoken about within that call. I've been on many different events over the years with many different martial arts instructors and business owners, and again, it was the ethos that was being spoken about. It was the character skills and the life skills that we teachers as instructors that we were getting from you as a mentor, effectively, and that stood out as being the thing for me that really swung it. That was the right thing for me to do.
Oh, cool, thank you. I mean, like with that, the reason why I don't want anybody to watching this to think that the reason why I'm into personal development is because I read a book and I liked it, and then it's like, oh, this is cool. This is a flavor of the month. It was the complete opposite. So you know me really, really well, Simon. So I'm kind of like, I just kind of say what I think in a kind of professional way. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But I kind of say what I think and have my own views on things. And personal development for me, and I'm just saying somebody else might resonate, is I had to do something to change because I was so frustrated with everything around me. Got to the point I was frustrated with everything and everyone around me all the
Yeah.
time. And there was that blame thing. It's their fault. It's this their problem. It's this, and then it was kind of a realization after doing some courses and everything. But then I started to, instead of just doing the courses, I started to understand what they're talking about, and messages that I said resonated with me. And the penny dropped eventually that the problem was me. I had to be better. My mantra now is, if to have more, you have to be more. Simple.
Yeah. No, I
So
agree
whatever,
completely. Yeah.
it's true. It's true, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
if I want to have a bigger martial arts school, if I want to be a better leader, if I want to have whatever, more money, whatever it is, then I need to be better in order to attract that and, dare I say, deserve that. That's just my personal thing.
It's
But
that.
yeah,
I mean, it's the old saying, isn't it? You know, when you're on the old safety briefing on an aeroplane, isn't it? You put your mask on before you help anyone else, and it's
yeah,
the same thing. If you don't look after yourself, whether that's mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, if you don't deal with that, then you can't expect anything to grow as a result of you being the same. You know,
yeah,
you're not gonna get any better if you carry on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. You've got to
mm,
change.
so true. And one thing as well, I had a real problem with the hypocrisy in the martial art industry of, we build children's confidence. We're the experts in building confidence. And then
Yeah,
when taught to them, it's like, yeah, you just need to pick up the phone more. So, oh no, I don't like using the phone. Like, what?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
just one little example.
Yeah.
It's and
You've
for
got to walk.
me,
You've got to walk the talk, haven't you? You've got to walk what you're saying. You've got to do it. You've got to put it out there.
exactly, there's so much like a lack of congruency between the messages that we're putting out, what was being taught, and the actual person that's the leader.
Mm.
But yeah, we could talk about that topic. We'll have to do another podcast just on that.
Well, yeah, just on that one alone.
Let's talk about like your actual like the transformation that you made. So what were 2 or 3 specific systems or strategies that you implemented to start moving things forward?
I think the first thing that came from being involved with yourself was the consistency. I think we were very scattergun with our approach with like marketing as an example. You know,
Yeah,
we do a couple of Facebook ads, or we do a school delivery drop or something, and then we wouldn't do anything for a couple of months. So I think the first thing that changed massively was that consistency with our ads, and obviously getting better at understanding how ads are run, depend on who your avatar is.
yeah,
So we now target a lot more specifically on what we do. We run ads all the time, so we don't stop for, like before in the past, we get to the summer holidays and go, well, there's no point running this during the summer holidays because no one's around. Whereas we do now. We run through summer holidays, Easter holidays, you know, Christmas, etc. They're running 24/7.
yeah,
And the good thing is, man, like Facebook ads, they're getting easier and easier to set up and run. Like when I first started doing them, they were really complicated, or I found them really complicated, especially not coming from that kind of background. So you kind of think, oh, just set up and I'll leave it and just let it run and just don't ever touch it again, because it was difficult to deal with. Whereas now it is so much easier to get in there and just switch them off and turn around and create content with AI as well. So I think
yeah,
the consistency with marketing was definitely the one thing with the business attribute that came out early on. I think the second thing was again my mindset shift as well, about what I wanted the business to look like, how I wanted the school to look like, and again going back to the personal development, a bit more about my why and my purpose. You know, what is it I'm trying to create from the school? What is it the business wants to actually develop and grow into? And again, that came from speaking with the group network and yourself as well.
Awesome, that's good. And like you mentioned AI as well, you've implemented like quite a bit of AI into your daily practice and stuff like that. That must have helped in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, AI is you can't be stuck in the mud thinking that, oh, I'm not going to deal with any of that kind of technology stuff. It's here to stay, so you've got to embrace it. Whether you like it or not, you've got to embrace it. And like we said, if you don't like it, that's fine. Leverage somebody who does and get them to use it for you. But you've got to implement that sort of stuff into your business. It has to work nowadays to grow, because everything else out there is now growing as a result of AI as well. And if you don't
Yeah,
keep up with it, you're going to be left behind. And it's not just martial arts schools. Every other after school activity for a child is implementing the same strategies that martial arts schools are implementing. So if you all say you teach courtesy, discipline, and respect, which all martial arts schools they say they do, what separates you from someone else? What's the difference? That's
it's
that's the focus.
yeah, definitely. And you spoke about like your schools. We don't need to go into the numbers. The numbers are relative, but with the growth that you've had and your acquisitions and everything, you've more than doubled your school numbers,
Yep.
which is like I know you don't blow your own trumpet, but it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And your full time center and everything it's a nice place. I walked in, I was like, shit, I need to take my shoes off here. This is like
Yeah.
premium. It looks the business, and everything's really really considered. Where does that? How do you do that? I know it's a big question, but how do you do that? Like you've developed your numbers, you've developed a very very good team, you're a very, very good leader for your team, and you always hold yourself to a very high standard, I feel, to make sure that you are leading them correctly. You're very considered in leading them, and you've got their best interests at heart. You've got an amazing facility, and you've done that not for yourself. I don't think we've ever had a conversation around your full time center where it's come across that you're doing it for ego or anything. You're literally doing it for. You always talk about doing it for your clients, your members, your students, your staff.
Mhm.
Where does that come from, or why is it like that? Do you think?
Uh, It's a really good question. I mean, with regards to the growth of the school and everything else, I very much believe that you lead from the front. You don't kind of push people forward. You set the example that your staff and your team and your students follow. One of the reasons why I still consistently go and do these long distance runs and events and multi-stage things everywhere else, because I think it's important that if I'm asking my students to do 50 burpees for a belt test, that if I can't get on the floor and do 10 burpees as a minimum, for me personally, that is that's just not on. As an instructor, as a martial arts instructor, I don't care what art you teach, you have to be able to be proficient enough to lead by example. You haven't got to do everything, but you've got to lead by example. So I firstly believe that very much, that I should be leading at the front, and I should be the pinnacle of what my students are looking to achieve. But on the flip side of that as well, with my team, I very much believe that they need to be leading as well, and that I then follow what their lead. So our goals for the year are led by them. I don't lead them. So we have a yearly annual review, and all the goals we've got on our whiteboard in the office here were all designed by the team. So I didn't put any of those. None of those goals on that board are down to me. It was down to their vision for what they want the school to be. Where do they want it to grow? And now they've got that vision on the board. Okay, well, I'll lead you towards those visions. But it's making them accountable for their success in the academy, as opposed to me saying, we're doing this, we're going here, we're doing that. It's very much you've got to lead, but you've got to lead the right way. We've all had those bosses in the past who've led the wrong way, and you don't get anything from it. You don't get anything. You want to lead your students, lead your team, lead your staff to where they can grow and develop and get better as a result of your leadership.
I hope everybody was listening to that, because that's um, a powerful viewpoint and a powerful lesson for school owners. That's not common. It's not common at all. So one of the trainings that we do is the picture painter, creating vision and everything, and using that as like a roadmap for your team and everything. You've taken that to another level where um, your team are very much involved in creating that vision. And the power of that is they'll be able to see themselves in the long-term vision of the business, which means they're not going anywhere. And their day-to-day actions are going to be invested in getting to that point. Even if they're the most selfish employee ever, it's still a win-win-win for everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
That's a really really good way of managing a team. And so if you've got a team at the moment you're having problems, maybe it's because you're not sharing a vision and you're not letting them to become a part of the business. There's a difference between being a part of the business and part of the team versus being an employee.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? A employee turns up, does what they're supposed to do, and then goes home.
And I think as well, it's not. I don't think it's a problem necessarily to have a vision. If you're the instructor of the school and you've got the schooler and you've got your vision, it's absolutely fine to have that, obviously. But you can incorporate your team into that vision. This is what I want to do. How do we work together to help me get my vision? And give them accountability within your vision. Don't necessarily have to throw your vision out the window, but bring them on board for what you've got to, for what you want to achieve, and get them involved. Give them some ownership, give them some sense of accountability to help you get your vision. You haven't got to change it. You've not got to suddenly throw your vision out the window and go, I need to get my team to decide where the business goes. No, you have the vision where you want the business to go, but get the team to help shape that. What does it look like? How do you get there? Because you're not going to get there on your own.
So true. So a lot of other sayings are coming up, like to get what you want, help others to get what they want.
Yep.
It's quite, the thing is, it's quite simple, really. Once you know what to do at the different stages and different
Yep.
areas. But yeah, that's cool. That's really really cool. So like we've spoke about the business growing significantly. With your teams grown significantly in number of team members, the mindset, the way that they approach everything. I've met members of your team. They are they always show up correctly. Always show up correctly. Now, that's not that they are overly professional or anything like that, or putting on a persona. It's not. It's they are. You've picked. It seems like you've picked the right people. I. You can be comfortable around them. You can have a laugh with them. You can talk in depthly with them, and it's like you could leave them in. You could pretty much put them in any business or group setting, and you wouldn't have to worry. Has that been by accident, on purpose, or what do you
I
think?
think definitely a happy coincidence it happened that way. I mean, I think I was, extremely lucky to find the right people to fit the roles. But I agree that the culture we've got within the academy has helped to bring those people through anyways. The way in which the structure of the school is and how we teach the classes, we attract a certain type of people, a certain type of student and parent rather. And as a result of that, the people we've got helping us now as we move further into this journey, they come from our culture. So they come from how we actually develop our school. So they know that when they come on board, they know the ethos of how we teach, how we interact with parents, how we speak to the students. They understand how to look professional, how to speak to other people in the classes. They understand the language that's used in the school. So it's not like we're having to hire someone from an external source coming in brand new. All of our hires coming from our internal culture. And that culture is something we've worked on incredibly hard over the last couple of years to develop so that it is a community where people want to come. And we're seeing that people now are finding ways to spend more time at the academy and want to come in and do more classes because of what we're doing with the different programs, the culture, the content of the lessons, and how we're teaching them as well.
Mhm. That's good. So it starts at the very, very beginning, then, doesn't it? It starts at the marketing stage. I mean, it's knowing your avatar is
It is. Yep.
mm,
Yeah. I
just
mean,
the very.
it's knowing. Say, know your avatar. Know who you're marketing towards. Know the type of person that you want in your academy, and decide that's the type of person you want, as opposed to kind of scattergun and hoping I'll get bits and bobs from everywhere. Just kind of focus on what you want for your academy to look like. Start from the ground up. How do you want it to look like? What do you want it to look like? From when you walk in as a new person, how does it look? whether you're in a satellite school like we were for many, many years and still are on two of our locations, or you've got a full-time place. It's that first impression. How do you walk in? When you walk in, what does it look like? Does it look professional? Does it look smart? Does it look clean, tidy? And you can do that from a satellite location as well as you can from a full-time centre. Our ethos very much here is that we want to be viewed as a kind of a higher end sort of car model, as opposed to a Ford Fiesta. Nothing wrong with Fords, but we don't want to be a Ford Fiesta. We want the Audi. We want the Audi brand. We want the higher end spec type of thing, and that's very much how the model of our school runs. That we want that aspect of our culture to shine through.
That's good. Some of the younger watchers of this are thinking, "What's a Fiesta? Is that a new Fiesta?" Okay, so talking about like insights from our work together, what would be the one thing that you said was like worth the time, energy, effort, financial investments, and everything? What was the one thing that you'd say, if you can pinpoint one thing, what would that be?
Well, I think the first thing first, before you do anything at all, regardless of mentoring or not, is you've got to be ready to change.
Yeah.
You've got to be open to it. If you're not open to it, it doesn't matter how much money you spend a month on mentoring. If you're going to sit there kind of arms crossed, stonewall, you're wasting your time. So first things first is you've got to be in the right space mentally and physically to accept the knowledge you're going to get from wherever you go. For me personally, when that came on board, it was the accountability. I was looking for somebody to keep me accountable because I wasn't. I was floating through week by week, month by month, not really kind of getting anywhere, doing anything, and not growing. So for me, my primary focus when I first started was I wanted that accountability. I wanted somebody to put me to task and then keep me to account when they were or weren't happening. And the wins of the week is we obviously when we have our bi-weekly meetings with the group chat, we do the wins of the week. And for about 3 days before, I'm sort of starting to think about what my wins are going to be, because I want to, what have I done this week that I can actually add in as a win of the week. So it's things like that. It's just being accountable, keeping yourself motivated, and just having yourself in a position where you are going to have somebody who's going to listen to you, respond, give you feedback, but not cuddle you and not give you like there, isn't it? It's all terrible. They're gonna, yourself, Rick. You don't do that. You don't put your arm around us and give us a big hug and say, "Oh well, you're doing everything right. Well done." It's everyone else that's doing everything wrong. We're kept to account, which is what I like, which is what you need if you're running a business.
Definitely, it helps. I mean, I've got my mentors as well, and they are regularly kicking my butt on things, and just I get random text message from mine, like what the numbers, and I have to send over stats. That's scary. I might implement that with you guys actually. Just on the fly, random stats are sent. I was like, oh shit. But that's cool. So let's talk about one piece of practical advice. If you could give one practical piece of advice to the listeners now, let's set an avatar of somebody, right? So a martial arts school owner that has between 50 and 100 members, but they've been at the 50 to 100 members for a long time, long time. They are on the verge of feeling burnt out. They're constantly tired. They feel underappreciated, maybe. And they can, if they're honest, they find themselves what we spoke about, doing the whole blame thing, blaming the industry, blaming the martial arts school down the road that has got franchises, blaming the government, blaming everything else, blaming the students, saying the reason why they haven't enrolled people is because everybody's tire kickers. What would be your one piece of advice to those guys?
I would say trust the process. Trust, it's not a straight line. It's not a straight. From A to B is never a straight line. It's always an up and down, and you're always going to feel that burnout. You're always going to feel that it's not enough. But first of all, trust the process. You're doing something that you're very fortunate to be in a position where you get to teach something you love.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Remember that. So every time you step on the mat and you feel frustrated, you feel burnt out, you could be stacking shelves in Tesco's. I mean, that's the first thing. So first of all, be grateful. Be grateful for what you're doing. You could be doing a lot worse than what you're doing now. So once you start having that attitude of gratitude, that kind of being grateful for what you're doing, it just changes your mindset. It's very difficult to change your mindset when you are in that kind of negative phase of this is really bad, or it's going wrong all the time. But if you change your mindset, if you can just have that kind of, that idea of every time I cinch my belt, I become a different person. Just change your character so that it becomes a persona, that fake it till you make it type of attitude, and then be grateful for what you're doing. Remember that all the students you've got in that class have come there to be taught by you. You've got a direct influence on somebody's life who's in your class at the moment. Your chance tonight is the opportunity to change that person's life for the future, for the better. Your one class could be the difference between someone who goes down the line of going into drugs and all sorts or not because of how you've taught the class. So that's the responsibility you've got as a martial arts instructor. You're not just there teaching kicking and punching. You're teaching someone and giving them the ability to influence and change their lives in ways that we as instructors can't possibly see yet. But a student definitely can't see it. So if you go in there with the attitude of, oh, so do I have to do this again tonight? Well, that could lose that student who goes down whatever path in the future. It sounds a bit holier than now, but I truly believe that. I think, every time that you step on the mat, you've got an obligation to teach your students to the best of your ability. And if you're not prepared to step up and teach it, then that's why you need to be on board with mentoring, because that's how you change that mentality. You've got to change your mentality to be the leader. You is it. That's it. You are the person in charge. You are leading. They're coming to you to look for advice. Anyone can teach kicking and punching. Not everyone can teach the life skills and character skills, but as martial arts instructors, we can. So you've got to do it. You've got to step up. You've got to remember what your purpose is when you step on the mats. Why are you doing it? Otherwise, go and work in Sainsbury's.
So true. It's so true. Be the change that you want to see. You know what I mean? I think that's a Spider-Man quote or something. but but yeah, it's so true. It really is true. I mean, like I think you've got a duty of care to be better than you are now, or better than you were yesterday, because so many people rely on you. You don't know what's happening in other people's lives when they come to the academy. Could be putting on a brave face, and they're looking to you to as the blueprint to how to be successful, how to be that better person. So it's really really true. But let's talk about your future and your future vision. So where do you see your martial arts school in the next 12 months from running like we're going to imagine that we implemented all of our systems and moving things forward. Where do you see your school in the next 12 months?
So for us, I think the next 12 months, we're looking at taking on a second full-time facility. So currently we've got one full-time centre and then two satellite locations. So we're looking to merge our two satellite locations into another full-time centre. For me personally, I want to get in a position where I have a team that I'm managing a little bit better. So I'm stepping away from the teaching roles. At the moment, the teaching for me is very much, I'm teaching because I have to teach at the moment, which I love teaching. It's not a problem, but I want to get to a position where I've got a team under me that I can then step in and teach because I want to teach, not because I have to teach. So that for me, the next 12 months is bringing that team of people on with our junior leadership training and our instructor training to build up a group of people who we've got as a base. So if we've got holidays or sickness or there's an issue, we've got a pool of people we can bring on board to help teach classes, and then developing that level of instruction for them as well, because that's another level of teaching, to be able to teach teachers. So for me, that's something I want to develop further as we move through the next year, is kind of impart my knowledge of how to teach and how to be an effective leader to the next generation of potential leaders.
That's awesome. It's really really cool. We should just remind you about something that we need to speak about later on. But so what would you say to someone who's currently sitting on the fence about coaching, kind of just getting a coach to move their things forward?
Well, I think the thing is, if you're if you're sat on the fence and you're not prepared to take action, you'll always be sat on the fence and you're never going to grow. You're going to be where you are in the next 12 months. You'll be frustrated. You'll have ups and downs. But this time next year, you'll be exactly the same as you are now. So basically, it's down to you. If you're happy with where you are and you want to be sat on the fence and you want to just coast along, not growing, not developing, then crack on with what you're doing now. However, if you do want to change, if you want to grow, if you want to get better, if you want to inspire more people and grow your school and become a better leader for your team, your family, your loved ones, you really do need to get on to mentoring. It's not who it is, not fluffy. It's what you need to do. As I said at the very beginning, you wouldn't learn a martial art just from watching YouTube. You go to a school, you learn your style, whatever it was, from an instructor. Well, this is the same. This is learning an art form, and you need to learn that from somebody who's been there and done it. It's exactly the same. You can't learn it through watching YouTube, reading books, and sit on the fence. You've got to put stuff into action, but you need accountability with that action to make it work. So you've got a choice to make: either get yourself involved and grow, or sit on the fence and stop worrying about it. And you'll be where you are in a year's time if you don't do anything about it.
Yeah, definitely. Simon, I want to thank you for amazing insights today. I know this is going to inspire a lot of people with a lot of the value that you've shared. If you get a chance, especially like traditional martial arts schools that might be thinking that because you're a traditional martial arts school, there are some barriers that are going to stop you growing your business or anything, which I think is the complete opposite. Then maybe reach out to Simon, just drop him a message or something. I'm sure.
Based on that, I just want to say on that last bit of the traditional stuff, I think nowadays there is more and more need for that traditional disciplined environment for kids, especially more so than the running around circuit kind of fly by night kind of kickboxing stuff you get going on nowadays. I think the traditional stuff is definitely more and more relevant now than it ever has been, I think, personally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at the most professional schools, the ones that look more disciplined, regimental, where do they get those traits from? Ironically, from the traditional school, the traditional elements and the way. So there's a reason for that. But yeah, that's awesome. But Simon, thank you again. Really appreciate you taking the time out to share your experience with everybody. And we'll probably catch up again in another 12 months and do another one to talk about the second school and everything as well. Or we might have a chat about some of the topics that we spoke about and go a little bit deeper if that's cool with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Thanks for your time today as well. Thank you.
No worries. So, guys, if anything that was spoken about today resonated with you, you want to find out more, and you want results just like Simon, you want to move your business forward and stuff, then I've got a single-page document here, all right, that has literally everything you need to know, literally everything from how the program runs, what we do, what we don't do, who we're for and who we're not for, and also costs and absolutely everything. Then just reach out, just contact me wherever you see this, and I'll just send over the documents. No sales call, no anything, because we're very kind of choosy about who comes onto the program. Like no egos or anything. We just want people just want to be better tomorrow than they were today. That's it. Just nice people moving forward and getting stuff done. So thank you. Welcome. Not welcome, but thank you for watching the Martial Art Business Growth Network podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, and I'll see you soon.